Hello and welcome to episode 180 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers, talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That is right, and more in particular, we are talking about a new set. We're so excited.
Yes.
Aetherdrift is coming out on Arena literally tomorrow. We are recording on a different day than we normally do. This is Monday before it comes out on Arena, and quite exciting stuff. But first, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
Okay, so this week we are drinking Chain Link, a Vienna
Hmm.
lager from Clifford Brewing. I really wanted this beer to be the one that we drink for this episode, and I'd love to tell you why.
Okay.
Um, so I moved to Hamilton. I guess it's been almost 3 years now,
It's
two
been
and
a
a half.
while. Yeah.
Uh, and there's a place around here that I've been going to for pre-releases. Not every time, but I think I've been to two or three.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like a have a beer, go like Friday night pre-release.
You lucky, you
Shout
lucky
out to
dog.
Ryan who told me about this place, invited me the first time. And Ryan's our friend who is a brewmaster. He was on the show a while ago now.
Yeah.
And when we got there, this was the beer that he was drinking. And I was like, okay, what do we have? Like, what should I get here? And he's like, you got to get Chain Link. And I trust his beer opinion. So I was like,
Hmm.
cool, we'll just get Chain Link. He said it's the best beer they have there. And he's the one who actually put me on to Clifford Brewing in the first place. But now, whenever I go to this pre-release, what we do is we get chain links. So for me, this is like the pre-release
Uh,
beer. And
oh, that's
so when I
nice.
picked this up for the show, it's like, well, Aetherdrift pre-release show, we got to do the pre-release beer. So this is the
Oh,
Hamilton
wow.
pre-release beer. Uh, Perfect timing for our Aetherdrift pre-release show.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I love it. It also weirdly makes me feel like it sounds like a bike, even though I know chain link has nothing to do with like bicycle chains, but it
Yeah.
does make me feel like there's some sort of vehicle involved for whatever reason.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of just like an orange can with some old school, like I
yeah.
really like the design of it. And sometimes you just get this mental like, yeah, it's about your memories and stuff that you
Hmm.
have when you have these beers. To me, this was like that's how I'll always remember it is when I go to the pre-releases with my friend Ryan. These are the beers we get, and it's always a great time. So I hope you like it. But
I'm excited.
this is the Hamilton pre-release beer.
All right. Here we go. Pre-release beer. Let's crack it open. All right. With that, we have some magic news. Like I said before, Aetherdrift comes out tomorrow on Arena, or today as you're listening to this episode, as it comes out tomorrow, which is quite awesome. I'm very excited for it. There are some new things that are coming out with Arena as well. So we are getting some more stuff. It's been a while since Arena has just been like, hey, here's a new way to do stuff on the client. Since I think the last thing was like the reach thing, where we got like the bow and arrow, like telling us that the
Hey,
creatures have reach.
that was big.
Yeah, it actually is super helpful.
Yeah.
That was about a year ago. Well, now we are getting these things called achievements and titles. So basically, in the client now, this is in addition to everything we already have. So we still have the mastery system, which they've changed to like you just buy stuff, which is nice. We still have like the daily wins and the quests and all that stuff. But this is in addition to that stuff, which is kind of like longer quests. They're kind of like Xbox achievements or whatever, like game
Mhm.
achievements when you're playing other games, where you do just something good or something weird or something hidden, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there are certain rewards with the different ones that you get.
Yeah. So I haven't looked at, do you know what the actual achievements look like? Or
There are like 130 of them.
okay.
And it's going to be a tab that's up at the top by like the store tab stuff, like by the mastery pass thing, up at the at the top, and you can click
Sure.
on it, and it'll do like the ones that are like getting done, and then you can look through the entire list, and you can favorite one if you want to focus on one specific one.
Nice.
And so you get there's a lot of cosmetic rewards that will happen with that, and one of the new cosmetics is titles. So underneath your username you can have a title, but the cool thing about the titles in this game, and a lot of them are like trophy hunter or like whatever, I think if you finish
Sure.
all the achievements you're like magus of achievements or something like that. There's a bunch of different names. But the cool thing with this is that you actually can't buy titles. They were mentioning
Mhm.
this. You have to earn them, which is kind of a nice way of having those. I feel like I have seen games where it's like, yeah, you can buy the fun one for the week or whatever, and then everyone has the same kind of things. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know, Jeff, is this something that really excites you for like playing the game more?
So I like it. It excites me, yes and no. For me personally, I don't really care.
Hmm.
Um, Achievements like checking the box kind of thing. I it doesn't necessarily appeal to me as a more enfranchised player of the game who's been here
Hmm.
when the achievements didn't exist. Like this isn't something I felt like I was missing. Um, and the titles again could be kind of fun. Like if there's a cool one out there, hey,
Hmm.
maybe I'll go after that title kind of thing. I don't mind it. I wonder if there's going to be stuff like Pro Tour competitor.
I mean,
And
those could be cool.
the thing that I think would be cool about that is that you know when you're losing to like a Pro Tour player, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
well, what are you gonna do?
that's true. I mean, like, if you got titles for being in like the arena championship or something, so it's like arena
Yeah,
championship competitor or arena championship like seven competitor, and you're like, whoa, crazy. That would be really cool.
yeah, exactly right. That it'd be cool. What I like about it is that almost every modern game I've played has this. It's sort
Hmm.
of just an expectation these days of newer
It's just
games.
like,
And
yeah,
so I think when newer players come and when newer players come into this, they're expecting it, and when they don't see it, it might be a bit of a letdown.
yeah,
And it is good for newer players because the achievements should be designed so as to help you explore what you can do with the game.
hmm,
That's where I think achievements really shine. Is like, hey, you might not have considered playing with this type of card or doing this kind of
deck
thing
or yeah,
before if I just chuck the rules at you. So let's
hmm,
give you a fun way to like explore the ecosystem that Magic has to offer. And so while that's why I'm saying, well, I think for me as an enfranchised player, I don't need that.
hmm,
Um, so it's not that big a deal to me. I think it's a reasonably big deal for the game. Like relative to how
hmm,
hard this is to implement versus the impact it has for new players, I think
yeah,
this is a great change. Um, so I'm excited in that sense that I think this will make Arena just a better experience for new players who come and try out the game. And a lot of them are coming from Hearthstone, which has this, or
yeah.
coming from,
Marvel Snap. Um,
yeah,
like any of those, I think Legends of Runeterra probably had the same thing, even though that game's
it
gone now. But
did, yeah. And so
mhm,
any game that they're coming from in the like CCG world will have something like this, and I'm sure they're expecting it. So I think it's really, really great. I hope that they've sort of designed it with that in mind, that like
mhm,
this should be an on-ramp for new players, plus on the other end of the spectrum, like a reward for putting in a lot of time
mhm.
and for like, it should. I get that part of it too, but the part that I'm interested in is like, Magic is such a complicated game. If you just chuck the rule book at somebody, like that's super intimidating. And
It
so
super is.
you want to kind of guide them through it and be like, hey, can you win a game without playing any creatures? Like, or
Yeah,
whatever.
totally. They
Maybe
have
that's
things
not the
like
best
that,
example because that
but
would
yeah,
suck. But yeah.
but like one of them is like that they had done as an example is deal 20 non-combat damage to your opponent in one turn. Like
Right.
And that is a really active, fun way to play the game differently than you thought. And their example of how that works is you have like a stuffy doll with a Star of Extinction, where you just
Sure.
like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
And as a new player,
so
you might not even you wouldn't even know
conceive
that's
of,
possible. You wouldn't
yeah,
even think to think of something like that. And just reading that achievement, that is an achievement in the
it just
game that
like,
people are getting. It's like, whoa,
mhm.
you can do that. This is
It's like,
not
oh,
like
impossible thing.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think they're cool, but yeah, I think I agree with you as well. It'll be a fun thing, and I'll use them as every other achievements I've used in every other game, which is like I just play the game, and sometimes I get achievements, and then every once in a while, when I'm a little drunk, I'll go look at the achievements and be like, oh, maybe I'll try this one now, and I'll like it, and that's kind of how I'll do that. But yeah, any new improvements to the game, always happy to see. They're not the ones I specifically want, but I'm happy that we are getting something. And any time they're spending on making the game better and not just making more alchemy cards, great.
Yeah.
I
And
think
we
I'm almost after cube season, I'm almost like full fuck alchemy cards right now. Like
yeah.
maybe it'll go down a little bit and it'll rise back up
You
again,
go
but
back to not caring
I'm
about them and then back
yeah,
to
yeah.
hating them. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of at the peak of
There's
like
never a point in the
get the
cycle where
fuck
you
out.
love them, but there is a point in the cycle where you tolerate them.
Every once in a while, there's a card that slips through that I'm like, I forgot that this one was out. I like this one a lot,
It's kind of
but
a neat card, yeah.
they're usually the like most calm, chillest ones that are just like, yeah,
Right.
when you do this, you get a copy of this card in your hand. I'm like, yeah, I want to like hit my opponent and then get a virus beetle. Yeah, that sounds
I
great
love
too.
it. Yeah.
That sounds so good. Anyway, those are getting
We
implemented. It'll be great.
we talked about like tournament titles,
Hmm.
like Pro Tour and stuff. That'd be neat. I hope at the very least, Javier should get world champion title.
They should and only have it for the year, and then they
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah, that would be epic. That's actually what I want. I think if they implemented that at all, it would be like world champion 2024, and
Hmm.
Utah gets 2023 and so on.
Yeah,
But I would love it if it's just like current world champion
and
and
you
you could
you
lose
only
it.
have it
Yeah.
for that time. That would be really cool. I would like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, Anyway, more news. We are getting an Arena Direct event that's happening at the end of February. The Arena Direct events are ones where we get to win boxes of cards. That's great. Except for they changed it for this one. Instead of two play booster boxes, it's just one collector booster box. And I'm mad about it. I don't want
I'm
that.
indifferent, so
Collector booster boxes are only foil cards, basically.
oh,
So,
I hate
yeah,
that.
I knew you would be on my side.
Well, what's the resale value?
You could probably resell it pretty.
But like,
But
is it
you have to
more than
jump through.
two?
Yeah, I mean, you could also crack the whole thing and then get chase cards and like sell those for a bunch. So
Is that
whatever.
generally going to be a higher expected value than just selling the box, though?
I think it might be easier to offload the actual
Hmm,
cards than the box. Might be harder to sell a box when you're not a
right.
store.
It's higher variance to open them for sure.
Exactly. As
Could
opposed to
open
being like, hey,
garbage.
I have the cool Crackle Radiant Lotus thing, and you want that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Uh, yes. All right, Jeff. Let's just get right into stuff. Let's start talking about Aetherdrift, the new set, and do the things that we normally do for new sets. The most important things.
And I think the best place to start, as always, is
Hmm.
with our no pass list. So, for those listening at home who have not heard one of our pre-release shows before, one of our we call them pre-game shows, we come up with a list of cards that we call our no pass list. Now, what does this mean? It means a list of rares or mythic rares that we want for our standard collection. If you're a limited only player, you can ignore. If you're a constructed only player, you can ignore this. But for those of you out there that love both formats, what we do is we put together this list of cards we definitely want for constructed. So if they show up while we're drafting, we know to just take them. We know I want that card. Let me take it. I believe that the value of adding this card to my collection is higher than the possible incremental value of adding a potential better card to my draft deck. And so I've already made that decision ahead of time. And so I'm just going to take the card that I know that I want. It's controversial, we know, but we are
Hmm.
pro rare drafting here
It's
as
true.
long as it's thought out rare drafting,
Ahead
as
of
long as
time, you
yeah,
have to make a list.
planned
And
rare drafting.
when I say make a list, you literally have to do the process of making the list. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't do one in your head. Don't say, "Oh yeah, I got this." I got no. Actually, write it down. Actually, go through all the cards and pick them because it makes it so much easier when you're actually going for it. So, we are doing that exercise right now, but we stand by this. Now, I draft a lot more than I play constructed, so and I've also learned that like if you make your list too large, it doesn't work and it's really
Yeah.
unhelpful. So you have to be very picky and very specific. And also, if you're playing in like if you're playing against bots whenever the quick draft comes out in a couple weeks, it's actually I feel a little bit harder than if you're just doing the premier events. People will start
Yeah.
passing stuff a lot more in the premier events because they will be more focused on their draft decks. It'll be easier to get certain cards. And so if you do jump into the premier events, your no pass list will get finished in no time flat. So
Yeah.
with that being said, sometimes you can be a little picky and know, all right, maybe I don't need 4 copies of this card. Maybe I only need 2 copies of this card, and I don't have to take it just for the sake of going infinite with your draft gems.
Yeah.
But Jeff, the top of the list, the most important thing of any set, the first thing we look at when we ever see spoilers, we got to look at these rare dual lands. And what
Yeah.
do we got this time? What are we looking at?
This time we have the Verge lands. So I'll use Bleachbone Verge as an example. It's add a black mana as a land, or you can add white, but you may only activate that ability if you control a plains or a swamp. These are good. These are lands you definitely want, especially if you plan on playing standard moving forward. And
Mhm.
they're new. That's the kicker usually for these is a lot of the times they're reprints and I already have them, and that would be the only reason they don't show up on my list. But in this
Yes.
case, they're new, so I need them. Um, I these ones are good, and I want four of every single one of them.
Absolutely. This is the number one, the first and most important one on my list as well. Um, and these are also the ones that like when you start playing in events, people will pass these a lot. So
Yep.
going through, you may even be able to be like, which ones are my favorite ones to start with, and then I can move to the other ones. My favorite one,
I'm
of course, is probably just going to be like the Boros one, Sun Billow Verge. So you have white, and then you can tap it for red if you have a Plains or Mountain. But
yeah,
these Verges, we're finishing the cycle from Duskborn. I guess when I say finishing the cycle, now we have one for both ally colored and enemy colored ones. But technically, the cycle it could be 20 cards because like we have a white one
sure.
that taps
Yeah,
for red, but we don't have a red one that also taps for white, kind of thing.
they're asymmetric.
Yeah. Um, so, but these are awesome, and they should definitely be something that you're looking towards finding. And also in draft, they're not terrible there either if they're in your colors. So you can easily play this.
Oh yeah, these are good in draft. As far as like rare duels go, usually they're pretty mediocre. These ones tend to be. These ones are pretty good.
These ones are pretty good, I'd say.
I don't still think they're slam dunk picks or anything, but
No, but they're like C's. They make your deck.
yeah. Um, yeah, psyched to pick these up for sure.
Hmm.
And I've found if you draft the set enough, usually I'm able to get 2 to 3 of every single
Hmm.
one
And they can just
without much effort. And a lot of the time it's just my impatience. Like I want to start playing
hmm.
standard, so I craft the other one or two that I need. I think if I was committed to it, I could pick up a playset of all of these just drafting.
Yeah.
And that
But
is not an unrealistic, like impossible goal.
it's not.
It's good.
But also, like, this is a card you know you're going to be playing in standard. Like, these will be played
Yeah,
all over the place. And so, like, if you pick up two to
as
three of
four
each of
ofs
them,
too, right? Like a lot of
exactly,
these show up as four ofs in the decks then.
almost exclusively. So, like, if you pick up two to three of each of them, like, how many wildcards are you saving? Like, a ton, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're spending like five to, I don't know, eight instead of 25 or whatever. This is great. Or 20, sorry. Like, awesome. Awesome,
And
awesome, awesome.
we've talked about this since the beginning of the show, but we like just love having the mana base to facilitate building decks
Hmm.
because one of the worst experiences in Arena is like seeing this awesome deck you want. You go and you copy a deck list online, you import it, and it's like you're missing 30 rare wildcards to build this deck. That sucks. That's awful.
Hmm.
But if you have all of your lands, that doesn't really happen. You'll see like eight at the worst, eight rare wildcards to build the deck. Sometimes you get away with like less than four, like less than a play set of something. That's the best feeling in Arena because you just
Hmm.
copy a deck list, check it in, you're like, whoa, this requires like three rare wildcards and two uncommons. Yeah, craft
Hell yeah.
away.
You mean it costs three
Um,
rare wild cards and nothing else because you obviously
yeah.
have uncommons?
Yeah. Or it
Oh,
costs even better when it costs like this will cost you three mythics. Like that's it?
you're like,
Oh,
sweet.
baby.
Amazing.
I'm all
Because
over that.
rares are always the hardest to find. You always get choked on rares because of the mana base.
Yeah.
So,
So just do yourself a favor, pick these up until you have a play set of all of them. And it's not that hard to accomplish. They're decent in draft anyways. They're really great for just building a deck whenever you want. And yeah, I don't believe that you're giving up that much value. Sometimes I do a draft early in the format and I get like four or five of these. And I'm like, I literally don't care how this draft goes. Like, I'm already happy. I got four
yeah.
or five of the rare wild card. If I get like three wins, that's a win, you know?
Well, yeah. For every like rare duel that you get to save your rare wild cards, I think it's like half a win, right? So if you get
Yeah.
four of them plus three, you're on the gravy
Yeah.
train, baby. That's
I like
great.
that. The arena regulars law.
It's so
One
good.
rare dual land equals one half a win. You
Yeah,
heard it
it's
here
perfect.
first, I guarantee it.
That's how regulars math works. But Jeff,
Yeah.
are there other cards from the set that you're interested in taking? Not just the lands, but obviously other things that could be interesting in standard.
Yeah, there are a few. So, I put Bloodghast on my list. I
Hmm.
don't think I have Bloodghast. So,
I don't think
it
it's
it
is
wasn't
it.
in Jumpstart or anything.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I actually don't know that answer. Let me
I put it on my list
find
and I
out.
realized like I feel like this card may have existed on Arena,
Oh, I think it
but
does. Yeah, I think it is. It says it's legal and historic right now, which means that it must have been part of something. Historic
yeah.
Anthology 7.
Yeah, it was part of one of those things, right? But I
Right,
definitely
right, right.
don't have it.
I
So
don't either.
whatever it was a part of, it's not something I would have engaged with.
Hmm.
So I think this is a great card. I'm curious to see if it's still good
Hmm.
because this card used to be very, very good in standard, and since then it's kind of been like it gets better in eternal formats where you can do this a little more easily, and
Yeah.
especially with fetch lands, which are
Hmm.
not other than
Fable Passage.
timeless and are not like a part of the arena ecosystem. So
It's true.
I want to pick them up. I think there's still potential here. It's the type of card I like. It's like an aggressive graveyard based thing I'm in, and I just like the design of this card. So I'm in for Bloodghast. Uh,
Absolutely. Bloodghast just keeps on coming back. And this specifically is a card that in draft, I think you can play it. Like it does crew some stuff, but the mana cost is so rough that you will start second
yeah,
guessing yourself. But being able to bring it back over and over again is awesome. And it kind of leans into a card that I'm also interested in my no pass list. I don't know specifically if Bloodghast will for sure be on mine, but the card I'm really excited about kind of goes into a Bloodghast deck. which
Mm.
is Gas Guzzler. This thing is
Ooh.
sweet. Gas Guzzler is just a single black for a 2/1 creature vampire rogue with Start Your Engines, which is a new mechanic we have not talked about yet. So when this creature enters, if you have no speed, you start at 1 speed, and then every turn your opponent loses life, every one of your turns that your opponent loses life, you get a speed, and then you have max speed of 4. This creature enters tapped, and if you have max speed, which is 4, you can pay a black, sacrifice another creature or vehicle to draw a card. This is just like one of those aggressive black cards that are always kind of interesting, but I like that this has a little extra value to it where like the ability doesn't most of the time there's like a 1 mana 2/1 that like comes back from the graveyard over and over again. Like it's a skeleton that like just keeps
Yeah, yeah.
reassembling itself. But this one is like, you know what? Sacrifice all your other stuff and draw more cards. And I guess drink a lot of gas from barrels somewhere.
Sure.
I don't really understand. Is he? I don't know if he's a vampire who like needs gas to live or something, or he just like likes doing it because it's fun. I'm not
He's
really
just
sure.
hooked, man.
Yeah, he just
He's a
God,
problem.
I need that gas, bro. But
Yeah.
but no, having a gas guzzler and having a blood gas sounds kind of fun because then you get
Yeah.
to like either attack in with it or you can sacrifice your blood gas to draw a card. You get to play a land, you get to bring it back. All that stuff sounds awesome to me.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. They go hand in hand. I
hand
actually, it's
in
funny
hand.
you say it feels like they're usually a 2/1 skeleton or whatever that comes back. I actually 100% until just now thought that's what this card did.
Oh,
My
really?
brain like auto corrected it to max speed. It comes back from your graveyard. Like I didn't even
Oh,
have to
yeah.
read it. I was just like, I know what this does. I can see the picture. I can see
Mhm.
the mana cost. I can see the 2/1. Like start your engines. Yeah, I get it. When max speed, it comes back. Cool.
Cool.
And there's
Moving right
tapped. Like
along.
it just reads exactly like this black rare one drop that we've seen
Hmm.
a billion
Numerous
flavors of.
times. Yeah.
So reading that was like, whoa, wait, that that swamp doesn't bring it back from the graveyard. That it's a
Mm-mm.
different ability
Mm-mm.
at max speed.
It does the
Um,
opposite. You can't even sacrifice itself. You have to
I know.
sacrifice something else.
Kind of more into it now that I know what it does. But
Oh yeah. It seems like a card that you would be into. So I thought you would be all over this, where it's like,
yeah, I was
make a
just like,
bunch of
oh yeah,
tokens.
classic grave crawler of the set.
Yeah, I mean, like imagine like any of your sacrifice decks. Like, I think you were saying that you have one that's like Azorius, right? And so you get to like get max speed just by
It's
draining your
Orzhov.
opponent. What did I say? Azorius? My bad. That would
Azorius.
be
I
really
was,
weird.
I was
Azorius
like,
sack.
whoa.
I do that,
How
Jeff. I
many
do that
beers did we
so much.
have when I told you about my Azorius sack tag?
I do that so much between Orzhov and Azorius. And it used to happen on the podcast a lot, especially when I was playing Azorius and Orzhov auras all the time.
Right.
So
Then it's
that
ultra
used
confusing because
yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
because
about
they're
which
almost the same
version to
deck.
play.
Yeah. That used to happen like very early in the podcast, so it's funny that that's coming back. But anyway,
Yeah.
no, sorry, your Orzhov sack deck. This card seems awesome in that because I don't know how good Mac like start your engines and max speed and stuff is going to be in standard, but in a deck that doesn't care about actually attacking your opponent, but they can still make you lose life. You do have to do it
Yeah.
on your turn, which sometimes you want to do it on your opponent's turn. But
It's
no, I
generally not going
do.
to be a big deal though. I my only concern is like you have to do it three. Like there's
Mm,
no way to cheat it. You have to wait three full turn cycles to hit max speed,
yeah,
which is a long
yes,
time.
it is a long time. Um,
In
but
limited,
it
it feels more reasonable. Like it's harder to deal the damage, but 3 turns is, not the entire game.
for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Where in
whereas
standard it
in
could.
standard, like 3 turns is a lot of the time the whole game.
Yeah, especially if this is starting you on turn one, you almost want it to be like you have another one drop, and then you play this on turn two, start your engines, attack them, hit them, and then you're at two immediately. Um, but it's still turn two, so it doesn't really matter. Like if I guess it doesn't really matter if you start this on turn one and then on turn two you still attack. You're still getting 2 speed on turn two, so I guess that doesn't really matter at all. but
Yeah.
um, but no, it seems cool. I like this card, and I want it to be playable. I want it to.
Yeah, I love that pick. Let's go right down, continue with this graveyard synergy card. This card seems really strong to me. Um, and I'm not seeing anybody talk about it, so maybe I'm just not in the right channels. But I like me some Afterburner Expert. Let me read
Hmm.
this one for you guys. This is 2 and a green for a 4/2. It has Exhaust, which is an activated ability you can only activate one time. 2 green, green, put 2 +1 +1 +1 +1 +1
How many
counters on
plus
this
ones?
creature. Just 2 +1 +1 counters. Uh, that I don't care about that at all. The next ability is whenever you activate an exhaust ability, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love this because it's very bloodgasty in the sense that
Hmm.
like this is an old school design where it does not say with a finality counter on it. Because
Hmm.
everything we get nowadays, if it comes back once, and that's
Hmm.
it. This is not that. This can come back and die and come back and die and come back and die. The cost to bring it back, well, that's dependent on whether we have anything that we like
Two.
for
Yeah.
exhaust. Um, I particularly noticed Draconautics Engineer, which is
Hmm.
1 and a red for a 2/2. It has exhaust for a red. Other creatures you control gain haste till end of turn, and put a +1 +1 counter on this creature. Now, I've thought this through.
Okay.
This actually works the way you want it to.
It does.
It
Okay.
does, because that ability will resolve. That ability will go on the stack. Then the the 3/2 or the four
Right. It
two
says
comes
whenever you
back,
activate it, right?
and then it resolves and gives the 4/2
Hmm.
haste. So
Oh,
I like that. I like that a lot.
that's very
Uh,
nice.
so that's I think the best one that I saw because it's
Hmm.
1 mana, most importantly, but also it gives it haste. And the engineer actually has a second exhaust ability, just so
Hmm.
you can do it again later.
Yeah.
So, ooh, we're brewing some sort of Jund like self mill, get a bunch of afterburner experts in the yard, and then pay a red mana to bring them all back and give them all haste.
That
That's what
sounds
I'm
pretty
talking
cool.
about.
That sounds pretty sweet. I like that. I also just like the use case of like if you have multiple afterburner experts, like you can just activate one of them to bring the other ones back or things
Right,
like
you
that.
have that slow, grindy chain
Hmm.
aspect to it as well. Like you could do it the hard way if you need to.
Yeah.
Um,
I can also confirm that this card is a house in limited because I had this in my pre-release pool and this card
nice.
was awesome. Uh, just attacking into people and they're just like, what? I have to trade off a creature for
I guess
this?
I trade again. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, and I play my exhaust creature and I won't exhaust it yet. And your opponent's
Yeah.
like, because you can do it at
Ugh.
instant speed. Exhausting
Yep.
at instant speed, getting this back and be like, all right, I either have sneaky blocks or just like, we're attacking next turn. And I don't care
Yeah.
because I'll play more exhaust cards from my hand. Like, this card is amazing. I really like it a lot. I didn't think about this for standard because I just didn't know if the exhaust thing was going to be too incestuous to like not break
Right.
out and maybe not powerful enough. But after playing with exhaust, I think exhaust is good. Like this,
Exhaust
it's
seems good. Yeah.
I think they did a good job with this. Is probably just a good time to talk about that ability. But like activating an ability one time is awesome, and they do a really great job of making you like. Obviously, when you're playing on arena, if you exhaust an ability, it's obvious that you can't do it again because they won't let you, right?
Yeah.
So just arena will be like, you already exhausted that. In paper, though, it can get confusing, which is why they give you something every time you exhaust. So, like, if either it's like a token or a +1/+1 counter is the most common thing. So it's like, oh, if that creature has +1/+1 counters on it, it exhausted already. We know it was
Right.
exhausted. You can't do it again. Unless you decide to make a +1/+1 counter deck to confuse your opponents, to put a bunch of counters on
Ooh.
stuff, and then only you remember what was exhausted. Are you fun to play with? Just think about
No.
that for a second.
You're the
But
worst.
that sounds really annoying if that's your purpose. But no, I think this mechanic works super well. The flavor is on point. it fits in with the actual like vehicle thing, but also at the same time, it just works as a card because you could be exhausted as a person doing something. It can fit in
Yeah.
other worlds besides vehicle worlds. Nice. Good job.
I almost wonder if exhaust was what they were kind of trying to do with exert, where like they added this
Yeah,
time component to exert to be like, oh, let's give them a powerful activated ability,
but
but you can't really use it that often.
mhm.
And then they found the cleaner implementation, which is like
Yeah,
you can only do this once. There, boom, done.
yeah. And I think
And
for
it
the
lets them
longest time,
give abilities they
I'm
wouldn't normally be able to give them because they're too strong.
totally. And like I'm because it also, I mean, people have been talking about this being kind of like megamorph, but like no, sorry, not megamorph, monstrous. Where like
Sure.
sure,
Yeah.
because it gets big or whatever, and once it's monstrous, it can't do it again.
Right.
Or like there was another mechanic that the Simic had from Ravnica or something, where like if they had +1/+1 counters on them, they couldn't do the thing.
Yeah.
But they almost all just got bigger, and it wasn't like that exciting.
Right. And this is just
These,
simpler, right? It's like this is
yeah,
a thing. You can only do it one time. That's it.
yeah, boom,
Yeah.
great, great stuff. More things like this. It has like a arena-ish vibe to it, but I love it. Um,
I
and
think this is
obviously,
one of the great things about Arena 2, the impact it's
mhm,
had on the game is it lets them feel confident doing something like this because
exactly,
they know that Arena can handle it easily. And
yeah.
then, in paper, they might not have printed this before.
Yeah, I know that they had done a similar type of thing with like kicker cards and like Invasion, where it's like remembering if you kicked with different
Right.
colors.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like a black card that kicks with green and
But that
white
happens
and
right
or
away,
white.
right? It's like
It does happen right
I
away.
just
Yeah.
paid this. Yeah, yeah.
But the way that they could remember whether it's like, oh, if you paid white, it has lifelink. If you paid green, it has trample, and you could count the number of counters on it to know what abilities it had,
Right.
which is the technology they had back then. Now we just literally have trample counters, and it's like we should have
Yeah,
just been
yeah,
doing this the whole
exactly.
time. Um, but yeah, anyway, interesting to see how they're able to use technology that they had created such a long time ago for this aspect. But yeah, yeah, awesome stuff.
Love
Um,
Afterburner Expert.
oh,
Big on it. I think it's an awesome card.
super sweet. I do want to take this moment to say, like, I think all the Gear Hulks are really interesting as far as cards to be taken for your no pass list. I do think picking a
Yeah.
specific one is important, but I also think it's kind of hard because you can't kind of like accidentally put them in your draft deck.
Yeah.
Like they can't just like, I'll splash for a Gear Hulk, you know. You're like, oh sweet, I got the what's that, Oil Deep Gear Hulk, which is one of the ones I'm excited about, as well as like the Riptide Gear Hulk. Those are the two that I care about the most. And
Yeah.
like, I can't just hope that maybe I'll slip this into my deck. So I would put this into a no pass category. If you're looking at the Gear Hulks, like pick one of them probably that you're really excited about and try to go for that one. Because if you start trying to just grab every single one, I think it's just going to be a disaster. A disaster. But
On the other hand, if you are the colors, most
yeah,
of them
yeah.
are bombs. Like if you're
Absolutely. Oh,
red,
absolutely.
if you're red or green in any capacity and you see a Pyrewood Gear Hulk,
Hmm.
it's like I think we know what our second color is.
Well, also Pyrewood Gear Hulk is great. I'm just going to read Pyrewood Gear Hulk because it obviously came up, but it's 2 red, green for a 7/7 artifact creature construct with vigilance and menace. And when it enters, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain vigilance and menace until end of turn. And damage can't be prevented. Damage can't
Like,
be
come on.
prevented doesn't matter that much. I don't know why we keep printing that on cards, but the other part is great. And the best part about this card is that it costs 6. Most of the other ones cost 4 or 5. And at 6, it's a lot easier to get double red, double green, and slam this on turn
Yeah.
6, as opposed to the other ones where it's like, am I gonna have blue, black on turn 4? I don't know. It's
Yeah. Now, obviously, you can play Oil Deep Gear Hulk on 6 and still be
yeah, of
like
course.
pretty happy with it. But Pyrewood, you get a 6 drop. Like you get paid off for that. Like that card's
Exactly.
obscene and limited. If you could play against
Oh,
that, like, you're fucked.
you're
But
super fucked.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so I'm with you. Like, pick the gear Hulk that you're actually interested in building around and target that one. And then just kind of like pick, I would spec on gear Hulks, kind of like I was saying. Like, if I'm heavy green,
Hmm.
haven't really figured out my second color yet, and I see a Pyrewood, there you go. Like, I'm going to try to
Boom.
pick up some more red cards. If it's not there, it's not there. But, like, that card's good enough that it's probably better to go green red with this card and a few mediocre red commons than like trying to wait out and find the open color.
Totally. I mean, like, if you, this is a big sign that tells you to do this. Also, we do have a good amount of like fixing in the format as far as like the common tap lands go a really long way for stuff like this.
Especially in
Um,
green, right? That's why I keep
mhm,
using this as an example, because like green is going to have the easiest time
fixing stuff.
doing the double red, double
Hmm.
green thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is one of the most straightforward ones too.
Yeah, it's
Um,
just an absolute
yeah.
beater. Like
Mhm.
what? 7/7 Vigilance Menace Overrun? Okay.
Amazing. I love it. Um, but yeah, the other thing with the Gear Hulks is just like I think in general for myself, I'll probably just get two and then be happy with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So
I don't think any of them are going to be four outs in.
no, it's just too expensive. Um, but I don't know. I think I like the Azorius one, the actual Azorius one. I did say it correctly this time.
Okay.
Kind of the most, but mainly because it has the word double strike on it. That's always exciting to me. Um, so the Azorius one is one white, white, blue, blue for a 2/5 artifact creature construct with double strike and prowess. And it says when this creature enters, for each opponent, put up to one target non-land permanent that player controls into its owner's library, third from the top. It Teferis something away. And then it just hits hard. And I know it's going to be in a deck that I don't like playing, but I want it to be in a deck that I do like playing. I like those colors when they're more tempo based and not control-y. But whatever, it'll be what it is. But I still like this double strike prowess. That's fun. That's a fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this card in a tempo deck except that it costs
It's
5 mana.
5 mana. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
If this was this is a little closer to Mana War, like 3 mana and they took some of the shit off to balance
yeah,
that, then we're talking tempo. But
for sure. I know, I understand, but it's there's the dream in me that's excited for it. It's not on my no pass list for that exact reason. I just wanted to talk about it very quickly.
like you could imagine a world, right, where all those dumb decks that play the heroic style decks just play a
Hmm.
bunch of like single target pump spells. Like this would be a house if you could actually get it on the battlefield.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The problem is you're playing like 21 lands,
yeah.
22 lands.
You're playing 21 lands with a 5 drop that has really intense color restriction.
Yeah, you have 21
Uh,
lands and then the one white, white, blue, blue card at the
yeah,
top of
yeah.
your curve. It's probably just
4.
better to get four of better to cut it at that point.
Probably, yeah. Unless you can cheat it out somehow, but I don't know. I I like this card. But no, it's not on my no pass list. I'm sorry. It's very bad of me to talk about it during the no pass list section.
How dare you?
I know. Ugh. Jeff, are there any other cards you're interested in for your list?
Yeah, so I'm loosely interested in Ketramos, so I threw it on there.
Hmm.
Ketramos, the new Dawn, one white, black, 4/4, menace, lifelink, indestructible. Can't attack or block unless there's seven or more cards in exile. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile from graveyards during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life. Um, I just like that it's 3 mana and it's not easy to hate out because most things that hate out this kind of ability exile stuff.
Hmm.
And so this actually wants stuff to be exiled. It's very actually difficult to
Do
interact with
anything with
this.
this card? I was
Yeah,
gonna say
you have to have a way to exile this in
it's
particular.
true.
Yeah.
You also need to be able to. I guess I'm thinking about this in a limited perspective because I'm like,
Oh,
what?
limited.
This does fucking nothing.
Yeah,
What does this do?
limited. Like,
It sits
how are
there
you going to
and
exile
like
7 cards?
you can't. You just hope you're like look at my indestructible god. We're like cool. It can't do literally anything. You're
Yeah,
dead. But but this card looks fucking cool as shit. He's so awesome. Just the way he looks, and I love the design space of like actually exiling a bunch of stuff. So I don't know if like mass exiling your graveyard or just graveyards or something could be really interesting.
but collect
Um,
evidence, I guess.
oh, that's true. Collect evidence. That sounds good. Um,
And it's
uh,
great because if you have a bunch of cheap cards, collect evidence can exile a lot of cards, right?
that's true. It also loves the ghost vacuum, probably.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but it takes a lot longer. But you don't get to do it in one foul swoop, which is kind of the purpose. Is like, oh, there's only 2 cards in exile. This can't, and then oh, your
Yeah.
graveyard's gone.
Like
Um,
I wanna know if there's a way to attack, like curve this out, right? Like on
mhm,
turn 3, play it and be attacking with it on turn 4. Um,
yeah,
I think it's probably possible.
I don't know. Also, is it just great to sit there with a ghost vacuum and exile a card every turn and draw a card, lose a life?
Yeah, that's the thing,
That
right? So
seems good.
this doesn't have to be turned on, so to
Yeah.
speak, for that last ability to be in place. So this is like a legitimate enchantment that some decks might play. And one thing that, again, the set is giving me a lot of vibes of like they're just not including the riders they usually put. I feel like, a year ago, this card would say this only happens once per turn or whatever. It
Yeah.
just does not say that. So if you have multiple ways to exile stuff,
Hmm.
you're just you get to do it more than once.
Yeah. All right.
Now,
I think
maybe it's hard enough to exile something, but like, I don't
I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat just for a second, just to say.
know.
I think that when there are certain, let's say, flavor things that Wizards is worried about, this set there has been talk about people not really liking the racing theme, and they don't like the maybe the way that the Boros folks look because they're kind of spacey, and there's like
Hmm.
Mario Kart references and stuff like that. A way to get players on board with stuff is just make cards strong,
Make good cards.
make
We'll
good
forget
cards.
about
People
everything else.
start to forget about it and don't really care. Now, to be fair, Catcher Moose, like, I think this is a sweet card because it's like garbage in limited, but like
Yeah.
really interesting for constructed. Um,
It's a
and
very me card because it's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's powerful if you jump through sufficiently many weird hoops, and
Hmm.
then maybe it's not powerful enough for being worth doing that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
that's my bread and butter.
man. The best part about this is that it gets just wrecked by Sunfall.
That's the thing. Like there are things in the format currently that people
It's-
that are very common that
yeah.
just shrug this right off. So you do all the
They're like,
work
oh,
to turn this thing on, and it just doesn't matter. But
yeah.
I
But you
love
drew
that.
so many cards. That's also why I think
Exactly.
drawing
Yeah.
like cards one at a time is probably smart. Because if you exile all at once, you only get to draw one card. So
Right.
um, could be good to slowly do it. But no, interesting card. Yeah. Is there anything else? Are you ready to
I
move
did
right
have
along?
one more. I don't know,
I
like I put a
I want to
question
hear it.
mark.
Yeah.
I did put a question mark because like I haven't decided if I actually want to pick these up, but
Hmm.
I just think Hazaret Godseeker is a fucked up card. What is this card? So this is a
Hmm.
1 in a red for a 5/3 indestructible haste. Start your engines. It has an activated ability on top of it. 1 and tap, target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn, and it can't attack or block unless you have max speed. What is going on here? Like this gives so much reach to mono red decks, doesn't it?
I mean,
Mono red decks are are doing this every turn. They're dealing
Jeff,
damage to the opponent every turn.
it gives no reach. Hazoret cannot block flying creatures. What are you talking about?
Oh,
Uh,
she has a javelin. She should have reach.
I know she should.
Um,
No, it absolutely does though. Like, yes, in standard, like mono red is just like they're hitting you for something every turn, and it's not difficult to make sure that Hazoret attacks. Even in limited, I this was around me at the pre-release. Multiple decks had this card, always attacking. Like, never was it just like sitting there. It was like this card was doing work. So, I don't. Turns out a 2 mana 5/3 is good.
Indestructible haste.
Yeah.
Like this card seems nuts, and I also really like the design because it reminds me of original Hazoret.
Hmm.
Like it's going to play in the exact same decks. It's going to play the same way. It's just not going to have that weird rider that sometimes loses you the Pro Tour, where you
Where you don't
forget
play
how
the
many
card.
cards you have in your hand before you.
Yeah, and you don't use the ability to deal two.
Yeah,
Oh,
bummer.
that's so
But
brutal. It's so brutal. Ugh. If you don't know what we're talking about, just go look up
just look it
like
up.
Hazoret like Pro Tour fails or something,
Yeah,
and then you'll see how.
yeah. It's the one
Ugh.
that PV won, and
Yeah,
PV should not have
should
won
not
had
have
his
won.
opponent basically
Slowed
not been
down.
on autopilot and like
Hmm.
went to attacks before
I mean,
playing something.
I've definitely done that, so I do it.
That was the other part of that video. Like I felt so bad because there was so much on the line, and the guy had played so well up to that point.
Hmm.
But it also was like, wow, this is something I sometimes beat myself up for, like when I lose a game on Arena because I did something like that. So to
Yeah.
see it happen there is like, okay, this is just a thing that happens.
It just happens. You get excited. You go to combat before you should. You have two cards in your hand.
Yeah.
Your Hazoret can't attack, and you lose the Pro Tour.
Yeah. And then always your opponent immediately draws exactly what they needed to
Of
get out of the
course.
situation. And,
Of
yeah.
course.
But no, this card seems nuts. If there's any good red, this I didn't look into. If there's any good 1 mana red card with start your engines, I think this is a shoe-in. Like starting
Hmm.
your engines on turn 1 so that this thing gets reliably turned on by like turn 4 or whatever
I don't know
is
if
nuts.
there is. No, there is actually. It's right above us. Yeah, the Burnout Bashtronaut is a 1 mana 1/1 menace with start your engines. It's at
There you
rare.
go. That's what you need. And it
Hmm.
has double strike at max speed. Yeah, like that's a totally playable card. And it pumps itself. Oh my God, they did this to us on purpose.
Yeah, yeah, they
Like,
did it
yeah.
to you on purpose. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, Jeez. But I don't know. Hazoret seems nuts. Mono red is already like almost there. Like they play green cards at the moment
Hmm.
because. So now
Because
you're gonna
card
have to
advantage.
decide. They're gonna have to decide if you want to do this like mouse version or this more classical mono red version, maybe.
It
But
is kind of interesting because I mean I like the different flavors of those types of decks, and I've had my mouse time in the sun. Kind of interested in a different aggressive red deck, you know?
totally. I think like I don't know. This one reminds me of the like really dominant like when Hazoret was last in standard.
Yeah, when Amonkhet
Mono
and
red
Kaladesh
was
were around, it was
Mono red was the most fucked up deck in the format by a
yeah.
lot, and it even took heat. Like it hit some bans, and it didn't.
Hmm.
It still just persisted through that because it
Yeah,
was so
because
good.
Dominaria just like added in Chain Whirler Goblin, and it was
Oh yeah, and there was the like Eternalize. It basically had the best early game and the best late game. So
yeah,
it's just like, what is this deck? Like, uh,
really pushed it. But to be fair,
but that Hazoret cost 4. Just saying, this one
it's true.
is half
It's true.
half that.
Yeah, but by the time you play it, you don't have any cards in your hand, so it just attacks. But this one reliably, as long as you can get your engine started, you have the Burnout Bastronaut, and you have there's a bunch of lands that do this, so you might have to play some of those.
And like worst case, it comes down and makes something unblockable. You know, like
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, you make like, well, I guess I'm mixing both the decks together. I was thinking you make one of your,
hey,
um,
maybe it's half mouse, half like engines. I don't know, but
yeah, because you
I
make
mean,
something
one of the
small
mouses knows
unblockable.
about manifolds, right? So
That's true. You give a double strike, you attack with it, you pump it up after it can't be blocked. You kill. Sounds great to me, honestly. But you know what also sounds really great, Jeff? Is talking about some limited as
ooh,
we're getting to the limited portion of the year, which is just literally every day for me. But we are
I
doing
like that you've
our.
become the totally like limited guy, and
It's
I'm
just
mostly the constructed guy. I play. Sometimes I get really into a set, and I just friggin' crush
oh
the limited format. And by crush, I mean play a lot, not necessarily do well.
yeah.
Um, but usually, I'm like, okay, that was fun. That was a fun few weeks. Now let's dive into constructed.
Oh yeah. I am playing limited as much as I possibly can, or playing a aggro deck, or playing whatever deck you have posted because I want to try it out. That is
Yeah,
kind of what I do for the time being. Anyway, we are
I'm
doing our.
excited to see what you picked for these. I mean, I've watched some of your set reviews, so I know a little bit.
Oh,
I
all
think
right.
I can
All right.
guess where you're
Well,
going on some of this, but
we will see. But so this is the Pack Zero Pick One challenge. We like doing this for our pregame episodes. We did not make this up. This is from MTG Data Science over on Blue Sky and Twitter. This is something that we've been doing throughout the year, but basically it's a fun way to, before the set comes out, you do a Pack Zero Pick One. So we pick all five of the best commons of every color, two commons that can be any color, and the winningest gold signpost on common. So basically, we're just going through and hoping that 17 lands data is good enough to help us get over the edge. But it's all through 17 lands. Game in hand win rate is
yeah.
what we're kind of looking for. And at the end of the draft format, you get to see who wins and whoever. There's an official form and everything. It's a lot of fun. But
Yeah. Game
I
in
think
hand win rate has kind of become the like de facto, generally accepted
yeah,
metric for card quality assessment.
yeah, exactly. And and yeah, sure. I can go first if we'd like to. Jeff had mentioned I did a set review over on YouTube. I've been posting things on my YouTube channel, so if you're interested, go check that out. Man, set reviews are long and crazy.
Yeah.
I have two white cards that I'm really interested in for this, but I think I'm gonna pick the one that I'm most excited about to
Okay.
start first,
This is the
and
color I'm most interested
to
in
see.
hearing what you picked.
Okay,
So,
so the card I've picked for this, before the set comes out, before I've really been able to play with any of the cards, I did one pre-release, but that's it. Um, I think the white common we're going to be looking to take highly. I think Leonin Surveyor is going to be awesome. It's one and a white for a 2/2 creature, cat scout with start your engines. And it says during your turn, this creature has first strike. And then it also has, it's part of the cycle. Every color has one of these cards. And at max speed, you can pay 3 mana, exile it from your graveyard, and draw a card. I am much higher on these surveyors than a lot of people, it seems like. But I've been really enjoying them. And I think that they are all like specifically the 2 mana ones I really like. And when I say mana ones, I mean this is the 2 mana one.
yeah, I was gonna say 2 mana ones.
This is the one. But I always love a 2 mana 2/2 first strike, and this starts your engines. You get to attack into your opponent. A lot of times they're just not really going to be wanting to block in certain situations, just because they're going to either lose their creature. So you just get to build up your engines, and then eventually you can totally just trade this off and get a card later. I don't know. I like this a lot. I think it's really aggressive. Ultimately, it comes down to whether the start your engines decks are going to be good, which is really the like white black and white red, because those are the colors that have the best payoffs. Like I think black specifically has the best payoff, but as far as like commons go or uncommon, sorry. But No, I think this card's sweet, and we'll have to see. But I wanted to pick this one because it's the most exciting of the ones I was excited about for white.
Yeah, I picked the same card.
Okay.
I had to read this one twice. I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
is this doing what I think it says it's doing? I love the design of this card just so much, I
Oh.
think. Like it's like you're saying, if Start Your Engines is not strong,
Hmm.
well, this card's going to be mostly a grizzly bear. But I actually think Start Your Engine is going to be a fairly strong mechanic, and I think it's going to be super important to get it online as early as possible. And
Yes.
that's where a card like this is necessary. And then on top of that, it actually facilitates it itself because in the early game you're not going to want to block this. And this
Hmm.
is because it has first strike, and this is going to chip in, hopefully at least once, and get you to two, right? So
Hmm.
I feel like it's going to be a pretty common pattern that this gets you to two on its own, especially if you're on the play. Like
Hmm.
what two drop is blocking this, right? And I think because of that, some of the 1/3s that we're looking at are
Could be
actually
better.
might be a bit better than they look.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this card's awesome. I think white, other than this card, I think white's pretty flat in power level.
Hmm.
So I was like, and from what I can tell, not everyone thinks this card is as good as I do. So that's why I was interested. I knew you liked it, but I was like, is that what you
Hmm.
picked? Um, and white's is like the only color that doesn't have its classic efficient removal spell. Um, like usually every color these days has one, and it doesn't have its pacifism or whatever going on. So
It's true. It doesn't have a pacifism. It has some other stuff, but it doesn't have a pacifism for
there were a
sure.
few other cards I was interested in white, but ultimately this was the white card I chose as well. I think reasonable choices include like Ride's End and
Hmm.
Daring Mechanic I like as well. And even the 3/3
Interesting.
flyer for four I thought was not
Yeah.
too bad. Um, Again, Start Your Engines. So yeah, I mean, I also really like the Surveyors. And so
Hmm.
maybe we'll just be proved wrong on this. But I like the Surveyors, and this is, I think, clearly the best one.
Yes. I think it is because there's another little thing that we didn't get to talk about is that you said that getting to speed two would be really like worthwhile with this card, or at least that would happen very often. The other fun thing about this card and the other surveyors is that like you can attack into your opponent and they don't necessarily know. It's like the same thing with Rakdos from like Ravnica Allegiance, where it's like, are you attacking me
Mm,
to actually hit me so that you can play like your spectacle cards? Like this would be like, are you attacking for speed or are you attacking to bluff speed? Because you're also kind of okay to just like dump this in the yard at a certain point of the game where you're like,
yeah,
whatever. This can be an extra attacker or something. And if it goes to my yard, that's fine. I'll get to draw a card either later or right now. But also, I could have a combat trait and eat your thing. Like you just don't know.
yeah.
We
And
do
two
have
drops that replace themselves later are historically just awesome,
yes.
awesome limited cards. So if this reliably replaces itself later, it's a
Hmm.
no-brainer that this is the best white common. The only question mark is around Start Your Engines and
Yeah, if those are
how
going to be the
easy
great
it will
decks.
be to facilitate that.
Yeah. Um, moving on to blue, Jeff. What are you thinking for your best blue commons and
Okay,
common
blue I thought
design?
was really interesting. I
Hmm.
like the blue surveyor too, and what I like about it is
I do too. I don't.
it has
Uh,
flying.
yeah,
So
it's a
uh,
3 mana flying one.
it's a wind
That
drake that replaces itself later. Like
which
how's
like
that not
yes,
good?
I know that Windrake is like it's
Hey man,
not good
I'm a
anymore.
boomer. I'm a boomer drafter. All right,
I see a
Windrake
three
used to be
minute.
like the gold standard
I
for
know
blue commons.
you see a 3 mana 2/2 flyer, and I'm still like, ooh, but it nowadays
Aha,
like
interested. Yeah.
it's below the bar. But
Um,
I don't know,
but I think what hurts it is I'm not sure about blue's ability to get to max speed
or even to
without help from
care.
another color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of I think I hedged my bets a little bit here and I went a bit
Mhm.
boring. I chose Flood the Engine,
Okay,
which
all right, sure.
I think is just going to be for sure one of the top commons, even if it's not the top one.
Okay.
So Flood the Engine is 2 and a blue for an aura, enchant creature vehicle. When it enters tap enchanted permanent, and enchanted permanent loses all abilities, doesn't untap during its untap step. So it's like the
Hmm.
classic blue, removal spell
Yeah,
at common. And I like that it turns off abilities. Um,
that's huge. Coming down, actually tapping the creature and removing their abilities, all really really important things. Um, they still
and
have
there's
the
not a
ability
ton of like
to.
sacrifice
I was gonna
and
say.
ways to really use it in
Hmm.
this set. At least it didn't seem that way. So I think this is going to be one of the sets where this effect is a little stronger rather than
Hmm.
some sets this card is terrible and some it's the best common. So
That's true.
I think this set is going to be closer to being one of the better commons, but I don't know. Blue was very interesting and there were a lot of cards I think I could have picked. Um, so I decided
Yeah,
to just kind of like take the safe route.
I get it. I get it. I did not take Flood the Engine. I didn't take the Glitch Ghost Surveyor either. I was thinking about like Spectral Interference is kind of interesting. It's like a counter
That
spell
was
that
on my
like
list as well. I was like,
it
isn't this card really
feels
good?
it
But
feels like a super hard counter spell, and
like it's
also like
Essence Scatter with upside almost, right? In
almost,
limited.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all kind of interesting, but I think I ended up just falling on Bounce Off. That's the card I was
Okay.
like, Bounce Off is just it's unsummon basically, so it's a single blue for an instant. Return target creature or vehicle to its owner's hand. But I like this because this is a tempo card, but in a set where we have a bunch of vehicles, mounts, and exhaust stuff, the tempo feels huge because it's like, all right, tap my creature, crew my vehicle. All right, I'm gonna bounce that to your hand. That like takes off like their whole turn is like wiped basically. Like your opponent decides to exhaust one of their creatures to put counters on it so it can do something. You're just like, and not only do you have to recast that, but you have to re-exhaust it too. Like the tempo swing with this card feels really strong for a single blue mana, and I think it's going to be pretty important to be able to do something and something else in your turn. And so being one mana is huge. Uh, so I think that's the one I was leaning to the most, and I don't know if I'm gonna like overcorrect into bounce off, because obviously it doesn't take care of something forever, but getting rid of that key like reach blocker or something like that could be huge, and
Yeah.
just for that turn.
I looked at this one too, and my thought process was I always underestimate cards like this. Like I always think they suck. I never take them. I lose to them a few times, and then I start moving them up in my pick order.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, maybe this is just it's just so efficient, right? And if
It's
if it
just that
is about
weird.
tempo, then
Yeah, it's like, do I want to exhaust my creature when they have one blue open, or do I want to play another card from my hand? It's like I just don't know. Or if they have two blue open, it's like, okay, do they have the bounce or the counter? And I feel like they're both going to be pretty good, so I don't really know.
and the way it
Um,
interacts with vehicles and saddles, like
mhm.
if they take the time to saddle or crew a vehicle and then you just bounce it, that feels
So
so
bad.
rough.
Yeah, especially if they played a creature to crew it or something, then they can't recast the vehicle, and so it takes another turn to play it again. I don't know. It seems like
Exactly, right?
it
Yeah.
could be really good, but also you never really know. It's hard at the early stages. Like my fear is that the Sky Streak Engineer, the 2 mana 1/3 flyer with exhaust, is going to be the best blue common, just
Yep.
because it's a 1/3 flyer and then it exhausts like, and that's it. So that's the kind of thing that scares me. I'm like, I don't know. Like, how are you going to know?
Yeah.
But anyway,
It's definitely possible.
I love taking cheap cards, so bounce off is
I
easy
feel
easy
like
on my
you went
list.
I went super safe and you went a little higher, pretty high variance
Yeah,
because
I
the
tend to
bounce
do
cards are
that.
either the best card of the set or like
Are really
unplayable.
bad. Yeah, so we'll have to find out. I took another card that oh, this next one, we're moving into black, but this one seems like a
This
no-brainer.
one's
I'm gonna have
this one's easy. Yeah,
super
you'll get the
easy.
layout here.
Yeah, Grim Bauble, this card. I took is this not your layup?
No.
No. I think Grim Bauble is going to be like the best common. It's a single black for an artifact. When it enters, target creature gets -2/-2 until end turn, and you can pay 3 to tap it, sacrifice it, and surveil 2. The black blue decks care specifically about artifacts, and a card that like there's a lot of things that either there's certain cards that either care about sacrificing artifacts or having affinity for artifacts. So I think the
Yeah.
fact that this sticks around kills your opponent's creatures that have 2 toughness or any other pilots or things that can crew things is going to be important, and it has more utility beyond that. I just think that this is a card that we're going to be really excited about playing. I'm assuming I know which card you're talking about now because I did not take the card that you were expecting.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I think there were only two choices in black. It was the
mhm.
two removal spells. I also liked Grim Bobble, but I decided to just be like, just know the other one is going to be good. And the Grim Bobble style stuff is like a little speculative on which creatures end up being good,
That's
because
true.
unless that front half is good, obviously the card's not worth it.
For
So
sure, not worth it.
now the fact that I forgot about the fact that it kills Leonin Surveyor maybe is like,
It
okay,
does.
well,
Yeah. It also
now I'm
kills the Glitch
interested
Ghost
again.
too.
Right,
There's
right.
also
Does
some
not
good
kill the
3
mutant.
ones.
Doesn't kill the mutant.
It's true, it's true.
Which I really like the mutant, but I couldn't justify picking it. So I picked Spin Out, which
Hmm.
is Murder Plus. It's one black black for an instant, destroy target creature or vehicle. There's just no way this isn't one of the better black commons, even if doesn't end up being the best. If Grim Bobble ends up edging it out, I feel like again it's the safe pick versus the higher variance pick. You know, if the
Yeah,
format is right for it, Grim Bobble could be better, but I feel like Spin Out's in the top two no matter what.
totally. Yeah, I just think that it's been so hard. Like murder has been either like playable to kind of not super great throughout the last year. And so my brain has been changed to like, is murder good anymore? And I look at it and being like, yeah, it's a good removal spell, but it's not the one I'm specifically looking for. And if I have a pack between Spin Out and Grim Bobble, I think I'm just taking the cheaper card. Like most of the
Oh,
time.
I think early on I'm taking Spin Out until I'm more confident. So I guess
Yeah.
that's the difference, right?
Maybe that's the
Um,
difference, yeah. Um,
I will say I really like adding vehicle to this because what it means
mhm.
is one of the strengths of vehicles is that it is hard to attack through an opponent who has a blocker and a vehicle.
Mhm.
Um, because if you try to remove the blocker, they
It is
crew the
crew.
vehicle in response.
Mhm.
What I like here is that like you can kind of force their hand. You attack if they crew the vehicle, then you
You
kill it,
blow up
and
the
they have no
vehicle.
blockers. Um,
Though to be fair, if it did, you could still
yeah,
do
I
that
guess
if it had
murder
creature.
could do that too. To be fair,
Yeah.
um,
But you can kill a vehicle that you don't have to hold it up for when they play something and attack you back. You can kill the vehicle that isn't crewed yet because on their turn they're going to play
right?
something and attack you.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess that's what I was trying to say.
mhm.
Thinking through is you don't have to wait for the vehicle to become a creature to kill it,
Yes.
um,
So
which is nice.
it is nice. I This card is good. I do think this card is good, and I do agree with you that those are probably the two picks. Um, I just think I'm so excited on the Grim Bobble thing, and the artifact deck seems so sweet. And
I
the fact
wanted to pick Grim Bobble.
that there are cards called like that say affinity for artifacts on them, I'm like, baby, let's go. That's cool.
Actually, that's not
Um,
true. I wanted to pick Mutant Surveyor, but I was like, oh, I already picked Leon and Surveyor,
yeah, Mutant
and
Surveyor's like my like. I don't like it very much.
really,
Yeah, I don't care for it that
what?
much. I don't know. The pump abilities always play better than I think, but I think there's something about this set where it's like, what, this pumps and it doesn't keep the counters. It doesn't have exhaust. It just like can pump. Okay, that's
This,
lame.
this is my
Like,
favorite one. It's not the one I think is the best
oh,
one, but I think the obviously the white one is the best one. But this one's my favorite because it's the
because of the
most
game.
interesting it's the most
Yeah.
interesting about how, because they all have start your engines and then they facilitate it themselves by being difficult to block in some capacity.
Mm.
And
Not the
this is
green
my
one.
favorite one because it's the green one was like, well, what is that?
It's just a
But
3/3.
this one, its difficulty to block is the threat of activation.
It's true.
And so you attack with it, you're not blocking a 3/4 on turn 3
No.
unless you're able to,
You
you
have a
have
death touch creature, and obviously you won't
a
attack into it. So.
sizable board. But I
Hmm.
also like it's unbounded. Again, it doesn't say once per turn. You can just, in the
Hmm.
late game, this thing just is a 4/5 or a 5/6. And then you also don't care about trading off with it because you can,
Cash it
like,
in for
normally
something.
with a card like that, you'd be like,
It's.
oh, I don't want to trade for something because later this is going to be a 4/5 or a 5/6.
Mhm.
But then it replaces itself later if you do trade off with it. So
That's true.
I
Okay, I
think
do.
this one is like, this one's the best designed one, I think.
I think it's. I think it's really interesting. Um, but I think I like the like Jeskai ones better. Like I like the first strike, I like the flying, and I like the trample. Those all like seem
Yeah, it's a little
just
more
like
on the nose. This
it's
this one
definitely
is
on
a
the
little
nose.
more subtle.
And I think they had to
Um,
pull this one back and also give it the game because if the black one was the de facto best one, the I think the like a lot of the best payoffs for max speed are in black. So like it's just not
right.
fair, you know?
It makes sense that this one is the one that you have to work a little harder for or
Yeah,
whatever.
and it has
Um,
more play to it. I don't think it's going to be the best common. Obviously, I didn't pick it, but I'm
I
glad that
think
we got
there's
to
a
talk about it.
chance. I think there's a chance, but I think the fact that it has so much play to it also means when we're talking about like mass statistics,
Hmm.
it's going to take some time to figure it out, and like not everyone's going to play it optimally. I think if you
Totally,
looked at like a pro tour or something, this might have a very high win rate.
I could see it. I mean, 3 mana 2/3s. We do love 2/3s, so
That's what I'm
that
saying.
is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jeff, we're moving into red. You know what really just fucks up 2/3s?
Not when they can when not when you have 2 mana up.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Red was
But
literally the easiest
mhm,
the easiest pick by far.
always,
And I'm sure we picked the same card here, but I
of course.
picked Kickoff Celebrations. It's one of the red for initiate. No, I picked Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike is one of the red for an instant. It deals 3 damage to any target. Absolutely phenomenal limited card.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
like we talked last time about how like if Scorching Dragonfire is there, you pick Scorching Dragonfire. This is
Hmm.
even better than Scorching
It's
Dragonfire in limited
uh,
by a lot too. It's not even
by
close.
a lot.
This this card is unreasonably good in limited. So
Hmm.
um,
It's
yeah,
so good. Yeah, lightning
I,
strike.
I think this is just the best common. Like, come on, it's Lightning Strike. Like,
It's true. It's true. We'll see if like red ends up being like a really great
I like the
color
look of it.
because of it. I think it's
I
kind of
like the look of
interesting.
it. End Rider
Um,
Catalyzer confuses me, but for the most part,
mhm.
I like the look of red.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff going on for sure. But you know what's really exciting? I mean, I picked Lightning Strike 2 and all that stuff. I don't know if I have any more exciting things to say about red cards besides that.
I have another one later, so we'll talk about it later.
Oh, interesting. I do not have another one later. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Um,
Green, by
but
the way, was the hardest choice for me. I think
ooh,
green has a lot of good cards.
green was really interesting. And I'm probably burying something here, but the card I picked for the best green common, and the one that I kind of hope does actually do the best, but boy, did I have a lot of fun with this card at the pre-release, is
Okay.
Stampeding Scurryfoot. This is a
What?
this is a
Oh.
1 mana 1/1 creature mouse. It has exhaust.
Oh,
It's
this card. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a 3 and a green for it has exhaustibility. So for 4 mana, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you create a 3/3 elephant creature token. You're 1/1 that later gives like it essentially draws you a card. A 3/3 is like a real card. So like for 5 mana, you get a 3/3 and a 2/2. I with all the other synergies that go on with exhaust and stuff, because I had, our dude that comes back from the
Oh,
graveyard.
geez, yeah.
This card ended up being amazing. The fact that exhaust is instant speed, just sitting up being like, do you want to attack into a flash 3/3 essentially? That's on board, it's coming, but like, and my opponents would often be like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I can't attack into this stupid 1/1 because you have mana up. Oh, fine, okay. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do that, and then I get to do all my stuff, and all my cards start going off because I'm exhausting and things. And this card was great to have on the battlefield early. I had two of them in my pre-release kit, and they were MVPs. Like, this card's dope.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be pretty good, and I, after playing with it, I was like, "This is awesome." So it's am I cheating the pack zero pick one a little bit? Yeah, probably. Is this a ledge I'm jumping onto? Yes, I think that there are other really great contenders for like best green common.
Dude,
There's
green looks good.
Green looks good, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm putting myself out there for the one drop that's like, hey, I'm gonna start crewing stuff, or I'm gonna expend things, or I'm gonna do things, but you are gonna want to have me in your deck. And like, it's funny because this card reminds me of the Librarian from Foundations. It was like a 1 mana 1/1 that later it
Mm,
became a 3/3 and you drew a card.
yeah.
Um, but that never felt like enough. The fact that this just gives you the body, it's just an instant speed. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I
I was
just
gonna say this card wasn't even on my radar, but that's not actually true. So I was picking between a few cards, and I was like, it could just be this card over here.
yeah.
But the problem I had with it was like, okay, so a 2/2 and a 3/3 for 5 mana is totally a reasonable deal in limited. And this
Hmm.
is that plus plus plus, right? Like you get to split that payment out. You get
The
to
way, yeah.
actually use an exhaust ability, which will have other consequences by things that care about that. You could do that second part at instant speed. Like there's a lot of pluses
Cool.
on top of 5 mana for 2/2 and 3/3. You get the
Yeah.
1/1 earlier, it gets to attack. Like all that
Hmm.
stuff. But a lot of those pluses are dependent on how the format actually plays out. And so the big concern is like, is a 2/2 and a 3/3 like are they
Good enough.
relevant into the late game? If
Hmm.
it's one of those formats where like a 3/3 later on is just not that big a deal, and turning this into a 2/2 is not that big a deal, there's a world where this is like only okay instead of being
Hmm.
really good. But there are also a lot of formats where this is excellent. So I kind of was like, if green was weaker, I would take a flyer on this, but I just think there's
Green's
so
so
many
strong.
green cards that are definitely going to be really good
You're right.
that
I'm
I didn't
sorry.
end up going with it, but
I
I hope
decided
you're
not to.
right. I actually hope you're right on this.
I was gonna pick Gibrick Omnivore, but I thought, you know what, Jeff's gonna pick that, so I'll take the 1 mana 1/1 instead.
Hey man, I like it. I like the Gibrick Omnivore.
All right, so give me what's your best green card?
Okay, I think this is my spiciest pick. I think very few people would agree with me. I think there are two like obvious picks. Then there's what I picked and what you picked, which I don't think are
Hmm.
either of the quote unquote obvious picks.
Obvious picks. Yeah.
So I went for Hazard of the Dunes
Okay.
because I just don't believe this is a real card. For common, it's three and a green for a 4/4 trample reach with exhaust 7, put 3 +1/+1 counters on this creature. I don't know. This thing just does it all on its own. It's like a very reasonable card. 4 mana, 4/4 trample reach.
Hmm.
And then it also just wins the late game by being a 7/7 trample reach. At common? Like, have we really come this far? I played limited formats where a 4/4 for 4 was the best green common.
Yeah.
Actually,
Jeff,
that's not
those
true. It was the second best because Llanowar Elves was there. But
yeah.
the Llanowar was so good because it got the 4/4 out on turn 3.
It's true, but I'm just like I 100% agree with you. And this set is pushing green even further, just being like, how good on rate do cards have to be if they do
Yeah.
literally nothing when they enter the battlefield, or like they don't give you extra cards, or they don't draw cards, or they like if you point a spin out on this, it's dead, and that's it.
I think this is good
But
enough because
I think this is good enough. I like this card a lot, and it was definitely one of the cards I was looking at. And it was my like, I'm gonna go with the cheaper stuff because that's what I want to play, and that's what I think is
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
good. Because I'm hoping to play like Scurryfoot early, and then maybe I get some mounts or vehicles or something, and I get to do some stuff with it, as opposed to having a 4 drop in my hand, being like, man, as soon as I play this card, I feel like I'm gonna be a little clunky. But
Yeah.
I I already had kind of decided on the Scurryfoot, though. Also, in my experiences, the Hazard of the Dunes is quite powerful, and the format doesn't necessarily seem to be extremely fast. There are a nice number of like blocky creatures, which is annoying. So
I
this
think what
guy
tipped
lets you
me
get through.
on it, I think what tipped me on it is the trample is going to be a really nice way
Hmm.
to get your engines to max speed.
That's true. That's true.
Like it on 4, a 4/4 trample is usually going to deal damage to your opponent
Yeah.
and sort
Also,
of
Jeff,
hopefully
the
get you all the way there.
the threat of activation, if you just have 7 mana up, like that's crazy.
That's right. It doesn't say it. Sorcery speed.
It does not just attack in.
But again, this
And
like good in the mid
extra.
game and excellent in the late game. I
Yeah,
like it. This is
I do
kind of
too.
a like you're saying, it's a bit of a bet on the format not being too fast because
Hmm.
then the 4/4 is not super relevant, but also the reach I think matters too. So I don't know, this is just a lot for 4 mana. And I'm kind of hoping that this is good enough. And I think the removal isn't necessarily super pushed here. Like um Lightning Strike doesn't hit this, right? So you're
That's
really
true.
talking about just the black one and the blue one. And that's
And the
it,
and the
a
white one.
common. Yeah, but that one's more expensive than this. So, like, sure,
Not if it
you don't have
attacks.
to attack into it though.
That's
So,
true.
um,
But with exhaust abilities, how are you gonna know? You don't know.
I think there's some easier choices here. Like, probably most people are picking Run Over or Pothole Mole.
Hmm.
Um,
Those
just
are
as
like
like yeah,
obvious
the
slam dunks.
prototypes of good green commons. We've
Yeah,
seen it before. We know it's good, kind of thing. But I like that we both went kind of off the beaten path here.
we
And
did.
I was looking at the scurry foot and I was like, oh, I kind of want to pick that. But the one that when I was just like when I read it, I was like, what? Was this one? So it's
Hmm.
like, okay, that's I gotta go with my gut on that.
And that's how I felt about the Scurryfoot, where I was like, wait, this gives you a creature? I was like, fuck
Right.
yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Anyway, let's keep going with our commons. Uh, Jeff, what's your first miscellaneous common? Any color,
Okay, so
anything. Could be
yeah.
just an artifact, just colorless if you want.
So after everything I just said, I decided to be I decided to hedge my bets again and I just put run over in here as my
That's good.
yeah. But I wanted to make
I
it clear that I'm not
Yeah.
selecting
I
as the
I
best green
also okay.
common.
I also took run over, so
Yeah, it's
I
like
just I
we're both
wanted to.
like run over is probably the best green common,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
want to make it clear that I'm
I
not
want to make it
choosing it.
clear that I'm putting a very firm stamp on stampeding Scurryfoot. But yes, I also took run over as one of my miscellaneous uncommons. Jeff, do you want to
Yeah.
read run over for us so we know what it is?
Yeah, so run over is 1 and a green for an instant. It costs 1 less to cast if it targets a mount or vehicle you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. Wow, instant speed, bite spell.
For one,
sometimes
maybe?
costs 1 mana. Yeah, like very pushed version of this effect.
Very pushed.
Um, Probably the best green common for being
Hmm.
realistic, but
But hey, we got our bases covered. We still picked it, so it's fine. Um,
yeah.
Super strong.
And we gave ourselves the option to just have extreme bragging rights if
It's true.
another card ended up being the
That's true.
best.
So as you'll see with my next couple picks, I have kind of narrowed it on an archetype that I think is going to be quite strong, and I'm
Okay.
going to be kind of focusing on it. Though
I
we'll,
didn't
we'll
do that. I
see.
spread it out. So I like your
Um,
moxie.
yeah, that's just what happens. My miscellaneous card number two is a white card, which is
Oh, okay.
yeah. I picked Ride's End. I think that Ride's End is
I
four
think
and a
that's
white for an
reasonable.
instant. The spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped permanent, and you exile target creature or vehicle. I do think that this will come in handy because there are two gods we actually care about in the draft format. Catcher Moose, I don't think is going to do anything. Though Catcher Moose, if you have 7 Rides Ends, you can get Catcher Moose going. Um,
The
so
other one is a total bomb, though.
yeah, well, Sabsunin, yeah,
Yeah,
I. I can confirm that Sabsunin is a total bomb because that was in my pre-release pool and that card's fucking busted. And
it like draws two cards and then attacks for a crap load at like alternating.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So either you're attacking for a bunch of trample
yeah.
damage and
Like I don't even
indestructible, or
care the parity
drawing
of the
cards.
counters on this thing. Either way, I'm happy.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
But this kills it at common. Great job. It also kills Hazoret, which is also important. So I think the exile clause is really important, and 2 mana is fantastic. I just consider this a 2 mana spell, um, and I'm going to get wrecked
Yeah.
by all the vigilant creatures. But
It's not even that, man. Like you like to play aggro decks. This doesn't remove blockers.
oh, my opponents try to race me.
I see.
uh,
Always. Yeah.
my opponents are always racing me.
Even on the draw, they're just that confident.
Always. No, my opponents never want to block. Come on, Jeff. Come on. But no, I think that that's going to be important. Also, if my opponents are trying to block, I'm just going to use run over instead, obviously. That's
Of
how it
course.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm
Makes
pairing
sense.
these together.
You're always green white.
Always, yeah, duh. But yeah, that's the other card that stood out to me. Jeff, what's your other miscellaneous
Okay, I
card?
think I have another spicy one for you.
Okay.
So this is just another card that caught my eye, and I was like, "Oh, that's good. That feels like a lot for the mana cost." Which, by the way, this set has a lot of. So I think your
Hmm.
point about they were maybe not uh they thought people might not identify with the artwork quite as or the theme
Yeah,
quite as
or
much
the
as normal, so they
theme.
just raised the power level a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Hmm.
But I decided to go with Prow Catcher Specialist. It's a red card.
Right, it's
It's
red,
one
red,
and a
red, red.
red for a 2/1 with haste, and it has exhaust, three and a red, put two counters on it. First of
Interesting.
all, I like 2/1 haste, two power haste in limited already on board. That's like
Okay.
decent in the right deck. It depends how the format shapes out,
Mm.
right? But
Of
I'm
course, of
also a
course.
little bit gambling on exhaust abilities being good. But I just love because it happens so often in limited, excuse me, that you can't quite curve out. Like there's an
Hmm.
awkward you either don't have your 3 drop, you don't have your 4 drop, or whatever. Like it doesn't work out that smoothly. And this
Hmm.
is a smoother. This smooths things out. Whenever you don't have that proactive thing to do on your turn, you make this the 4/3. Um, I don't know. This seems like one of those cards that is just your bread and butter, get stuff done. You're always going to be really happy to have this guy in your red-based decks. And I
Hmm.
think red looks pretty strong. I think Crash and Burn's an easy choice to make as like number two to Lightning Strike.
Yeah.
But this was the one that caught my eye as like, if I'm playing red, this is the creature I want. Um,
Interesting.
it has that good early, good late kind of vibe going.
Yeah.
Um, and I like that it lets you fill out your curve. It just lets you use that
Hmm.
mana really efficiently.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot because so I'll be honest, I overlooked this card a lot. It did not seem super exciting to me. I was also kind of undervaluing exhaust when I was first looking at a lot of these
Hmm.
cards. Um, because I was thinking, man, all of them just seem like kind of expensive, and I just want to be playing more cards from my hand. But being able to, yeah, just attack in and the threat every turn of like I'm always attacking. It's one of those mechanics again, kind of like Foundations, where it's teaching your opponent or teaching your players like attack first, hold up your exhaust. Your opponent has to decide and then do something afterwards.
Yeah.
And this card is like a prime example of just like, yeah, I get to do this. Either I'm exhausting this or I'm playing 2/2 drops or something like that. Yeah, I think I like that pick. I think I probably would have just jumped to Goblin Surveyor as like the next one was in my mind. But
Yeah.
but I like this pick from
That
you. I
that
think
one's my
that's
least
cool.
favorite surveyor, personally.
Well,
Oh no,
But
sorry, I forgot about the
the
green one.
green one,
Fuck the
yeah, the
fucking green
green
one.
one.
Like, what is the green one? I forgot it even existed. But
It's a three
yeah,
mana
like
three three that does nothing besides
it,
start your
it,
engines and have max speed.
yeah, like
The red one has
anyways,
trample. The green one isn't even a 4/4. Come on.
yeah. Um, Also on the specialist, there is something to be said for in the late game, like just a 4/3 haste for 6. Like sometimes
That's true.
really late in the game, you draw your 2 drop that sucks.
Hmm.
It's this doesn't do that. It's just a 4/3.
Yeah,
Um, which isn't awesome. It's not good for 6 mana, 4/3 haste. But
but
like,
it
hey,
does.
it's like a split card kind of thing.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, like in wars of attrition, if the format ends up being that kind of way, or you're in one of those games where you're, going back and forth on resources, and you're just like, well, I need something off the top. They have no blockers. I just need something, and I know that we're both top decking lands. If you smash this down, you could easily just win. So
Yeah.
you never know. You never know. I like it. Awesome. Um, Jeff, what is your the gold card that looks the best, the spiciest to you? Essentially, what color combination are you gifting with your praise? I guess.
Okay, don't get mad at me. I even hate myself for this pick.
Oh,
But
th-
it
go for it.
it was hard for me not to pick Sky Serpent Seeker here.
Hmm.
This card is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous limited card. It's okay, so it's green and a blue for a 1/1 flying death touch with exhaust 4 of anything. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal 2 land cards. Put those onto the battlefield tapped, and then put a +1/+1 counter on this. So this is like a 1/1 flying death touch for 2 with an free explosive vegetation stapled to it that also pumps this.
Hmm.
I don't know. This was just like, what is this card? Like, this is you get the lands for sure. When I first started reading it, I was like, oh, like it reads like you don't know what you're gonna get, but you do. You just get two
No,
lands.
this reads like an alchemy card where it's like, go get the things you want from your deck.
Seek two
Like,
lands or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
basically
yeah.
what it reads like. But yeah, you do just reveal till you get the lands. You definitely get the lands. 4 mana, get 2 lands.
Or of any color.
Yeah,
Like, I guess this is
and
hard to cast in its own right, so it's not fixing. But
totally. But like obviously in limited, it's probably basics, but it could also not be basics. Like you could be like, I guess in limited, what are the other cards you're going to get? Is like either the raceways would be helpful, or like the pilot lands, the country roads or whatever.
yeah,
But I don't know. The fact that it just gets any land is pretty cool. Like,
for sure. And like I part of my selection because I actually think a lot of these signpost uncommons look very, very good.
yeah,
Like I think the power level on these is crazy. But I also
crazy.
think green, to me, based on the commons, green looked like the strongest color. and
Hmm.
blue also looked pretty strong. So I wanted to pick like a color pair that I thought was
Hmm.
going to be strong. And then when I read this one, I was like, well, that's the one. Like this is cheap, very, very
Hmm.
good, and in two colors that I believe are likely to be strong.
It's true. Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about it. I didn't pick it, but I thought about it.
It
It
was
was.
hard to pick because I was like, am I really choosing the Simic one? Am I going
Mhm.
to choose the Simic one?
I'm just gonna say Simic this time around is actively fun. It feels more like
But
a.
I did choose the Simic ramp card, to be fair.
That's true, but does it really feel like ramp? It feels there's
It's
something
also
about a
kind
little.
of tempo-y because it's a
Yeah,
1/1 or it's a flyer, cheap flyer. So
it's like death touchy, so it also just trades for a card no matter what. Like you are not losing on this exchange. Like you are
yeah.
trading for either a flyer, which is a great card, or like a removal spell, which is sure. Like
Or it like gets in for your start your engines because it's a cheap
that's true.
flyer, or it
Yeah.
trades with something huge when you leave it back on defense, or
Or
and it
it
ramps you, and it's just like it's like what is it? Just does everything. This card's so
Yeah, or
good.
it has an exhaust ability, which the green blue deck really cares about exhausting a bunch of times. And maybe you have the
Yeah.
elvish refueler or whatever, so you get to do it multiple times. All that kind of stuff is really exciting. Um, I went a different direction, a little bit more smash your face, beat you up kind of thing. Very classic.
Love it. Love
Love
it.
it. Um, but I also picked a 2 mana 1/1 flyer. So I picked Logrin, Soul of Alacria.
I was looking at this one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
Like because
is.
I scrolled in order, right? And then I
Mhm.
hit that one first. I was like, oh, this is gonna be the
Let's
pick,
look
right? And
fucking
then
busted.
the very
Uh,
last one is Sky Serpent Seeker. And I was like, oh fuck, you
mhm.
got me. You got me at the end.
It's I know. But anyway, Logrin is green white for a 1/1 legendary creature, beast mount with flying. It says whenever Logrin attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to two target mounts and or vehicles, and it has a saddle cost of one.
Just one. That's what makes it.
Interesting.
It's not a
What
one.
what's a 1 mana green creature that I think is really good? Interesting. I wonder why I picked that to be part of my suite of things. Could it be because I want to play that and then play this and then do some stuff and then get some things going? Yeah. Awesome. Unfortunately, we can't put the +1/+1
I was
counter
gonna say it's not a
onto
mount. If it was a
it's not a
mount,
mount.
it's locked in. It's
I
sealed
will
deal.
say that the true curve of this is probably playing the 1/1 white one, but I guess we can fit that one in this deck. But I'm less excited by the white one honestly than the green card.
Yeah.
Um, so and yes, this is kind of fragile. It's a 2 mana 1/1 that needs to attack and be saddled to be able to actually get any value. And it does die to Grim Bauble for like 2 turns. So that's kind of scary. But I think this could be one of the reasons why I think Grim Bauble is going to be really good. It's because you need
Yeah.
to be able to kill these things early, and you won't be able to wait that long. Um, but this thing's a
I
house.
love I love that they made this legendary. Because just
Oh,
imagine what happens when you have two of these. Just think about it.
yeah.
It gets
That's
out of
they
hand
just
real
put
fast.
counters on each other. It's
Yeah.
disgusting. That's actually funny because I wasn't fully thinking of that. Every time I see a legendary creature now, I just think commander
Commander,
immediately.
right? Yeah.
Commander.
And probably this, will appeal to some commander players as
Totally.
like the beast, the mount or whatever
Whatever. Beast
commander.
deck or something.
But it also just makes a lot of sense from a game mechanics point of view of like you don't want
Yeah.
this into a second one and then they're
Putting
both
counters on each
immediately two
other.
twos and then next
Yeah.
turn they're both like four fours and then
Ugh.
it's just absurd.
Just disgusting. Um, but yeah, so cool. But like you were saying before, there's so many amazing gold cards that are
Oh,
just like
they're all
really
really
exciting.
good.
Like really cool
Except
stuff.
like some of them are randomly just like that's pretty shit, but
You're like, what?
most of them are really good.
Most of them are really good. I think that Gastel Thrill Seeker is also one that I was looking at. That's the
Yeah.
Rakdos, 2 mana 2/3 that starts your engines and also pings your opponent, so you get speed 2 on turn 2. with
Yeah,
this always.
immediately getting to speed 2 is nice. If you can
Hmm.
cast it on turn 2 reliably, then
That's true.
that's
But also, if you cast this later, it just like even if you started your engines, at least when you play this card, it does hit your opponent,
yeah.
and it could be like turn three, you play or turn three. Sorry, you're at max or sorry, you're at speed three is what I'm trying to say. You're at speed three. You play this, you get max speed. Now you attack with Death Touch. Like that's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, cool stuff.
It's very cool design, but I just didn't
Yeah,
think I don't know,
yeah.
I wanted to take something that I thought was just like
I wanted to take a
yeah.
green card. I want to take a green
Same.
slash white
Yeah.
card. Yeah.
For real.
Hmm.
I actually don't know if white's that good in this set, but green I'm quite sure green is good.
Hmm.
If it's not the best color, it's second.
I like that the green white mounts thing has. I like mounts more than vehicles just because inherently they're just
Mounts are better than vehicles, I think.
better.
Yeah.
And so that just archetype in general is something I'm interested in. But I sneakily think that I think exhaust is going to be really strong, and I think maybe either Simic or Teamer or Gruul is going to be just like brutal in this format. But I hitched my whatever rope to the Celestia stuff, and that's what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Um, all right, Jeff, are you ready for last call?
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the rare we chucked in there as a
I guess.
tiebreaker or
All right. So technically there is a tiebreaker. I was going to skip this for timing reasons, but I think we can do it. That's totally fine. I do have a rare, but it kind of goes against everything I just said. So, oops.
rares are it doesn't matter like it's just a
Hmm.
totally different thing, right? So um yeah, I looked at the whole set and I was like, oh man, there's so many interesting things to choose from. Like there's the Gear Hulks, there's this, there's that. And I finally like landed on a card where I was like, yeah, this is it. And then I went to input it and I was like, oh, it's rare, not mythic
Mythic
rare.
rare.
Like fuck me. So then I just picked one and I picked Thopter Fabricator.
Okay. All right.
2 and a blue for a vehicle, 4/4 flying. When you draw your second card, create a Thopter crew 2. I just think like a 4/4 flying. I don't know. It's just like it's definitely going to be a strong card. It's probably
Totally.
not the winningest rare, but
Hmm.
after like looking at it all and picking something and being like, by the way, the I picked the Artifact Planeswalker. That was the one that I was like, yeah, this thing's gonna fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but
This
then I'm
thing's
like,
gonna
oh, why isn't that here? Oh my, oh, it's just rares. Whatever. Let's just go
Mhm.
with this one. So,
Uh, yeah, I get you. I get you. Thopter Fabricator, it definitely is like a bit of a build around. That was also a card in my pre-release pack, so
oh
I
yeah,
have experience with
what
it.
is going on with
Um,
you? What was your pre-release back, man?
it was like Simic bombs. It was great.
Yeah,
That's what made me think like maybe I should have picked some more Simic cards because these cards. I went 3-0. I was like, fuck, Simic's awesome.
I think
Like it was.
Simic might be the best color pair, but
It was.
that's my
It
that's
was.
just a guess. But
It was also a lot of fun because most of my cards were like two drops. I was like, wait, I'm playing Simic two drops. Wait, what's going on? Like it was.
yeah, yeah,
It was a. It
few
was.
one drops in there, you know.
It was crazy. I had two. Yeah, it was crazy. It was so good. Um, but I don't. I just don't think I had the right deck for this. The Thopter Fabricator is definitely good in like the blue red deck for sure because you can
Yeah,
like cycle your cards or discard things, and then you get extra tokens, and that's all strong. It also helps make a bunch of Thopters if you're playing like um, any artifact strategies. So I can
I
definitely
think that
see
was
that
part of it.
in
Like
one of
it's
those
about
decks.
yeah, and you'll play this only in the decks it's good in, and
For sure.
therefore like its game in
I
hand win rate's going to be high, kind of thing.
Yeah. I also picked a card that's only good in the specific deck that it is, but this one's very, very. It has to be in that deck.
Right.
So I took Otchik Emerald Radiant, which is
Okay.
three
Yeah.
black, black, green. So it's 6 mana for a 3/3 legendary creature insect druid at rare. It says when it enters, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each artifact and/or creature card in your graveyard. And then whenever another insect you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and each opponent loses 1 life. I was just like, how much cardboard can I get with one card?
Yeah.
And I was like,
It reminds me of Izoni, which was one of the
that's
best cards actually in that format.
that is what I was exactly thinking. So I was like,
Yeah.
if we can do a self mill type of thing, this card will be able to do something. If not, I don't think you play this card because the mana value is just outrageous.
Right. And
Um,
Izoni had a similar thing where it's like if anyone's playing Izoni, it's because they can cast her,
because it's
and
busted. Yeah.
it's gonna be fine.
Or they
Was it
cast.
you? Did you
Yes, it
play
was me.
against the triple Izoni deck?
I played against a deck that had three Azonis. I fought through the first one, and the second one they basically sacrificed to get the third one, just to say fuck you to me. It was horrible. So
Yeah.
I've been scarred forever, and so now
Yeah.
I think this card's good. Like
I was
that's
gonna say it makes sense that you picked this one.
yeah. I was like, this card must be amazing, right? It's got to be. Um, but there is like a light. I mean, there's a very strong mill theme, but there's a light reanimation theme as well. So even if you can just like mill this over and reanimate it, even if you make like three insects sounds great. Like this plus three insects,
Oh,
that's a
for sure.
very low bar, I think, to cross. And then getting any past that, where your opponent's like, all right, we're trying to attack in. Obviously, you'll need to make sure you have trample or something to get past these insects. He's like, oh, I'll just build my creature up and you lose a bunch of life. Just
Yeah.
it sounds like I'm going to be so mad when I'm like, all right, as long as they don't play something that gives them four blockers, I'll be fine. And then they
Yeah.
play this. I'm like, fuck. Now they have four blockers.
Yeah.
I guess I'm dead. I guess the game's over. I can't beat this thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it seems super sweet. Obviously, it's not as good as Zoni
no.
because Zoni had a little more control over like
What?
you
There's
can't
more
like
play
this
to it.
doesn't let you sack the insects
No.
to do that when you want to, which Zoni
Hmm.
kind of did. So, but yeah, this is oh yeah, and I feel like three is going to be on the low end. Like you're saying, you play this for
Yeah.
three insects and you're happy with it. That's probably the least you can expect.
Yes. I mean, like you're playing this with like the carrion thing. There's a black vehicle that mills. Oh, maybe it's uncommon. But yeah,
But
there's
like three is just the normal course of a limited game. By the time you get to
yes.
six mana, there's like
Hmm.
three
There's like
creatures
three.
in your
Yeah.
yard kind of thing. Yeah.
So yes, I think this card has the potential to do the thing, but obviously all it's so hard to pick the rare one, and also the rare
Yeah,
one
that's why it's the
barely matters.
tiebreaker, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you do the March Madness, the tiebreaker is like predicting the exact score of the
Yeah.
finals or whatever. It's like
You think when you add them together or whatever.
you can't actually do it,
Yeah.
and it probably doesn't matter.
It probably doesn't matter. You're just like yeah, those are all so hard and impossible. Though I did see a video of some woman just like randomly guessing the score of the Super Bowl, and it happened. That was insane.
What? That was such
Yeah,
an unusual Super Bowl score too.
exactly. That's why they're like 40 to 22 or something like
40
that.
to 22.
What? Eagles win. It's just like what a bizarre score. Okay, sure. But anyway, um,
That's why you always
eh,
predict the Grey Cup instead. It's like 3-1.
yeah. Oh my God. Uh, anyway, let's go to last call. We've been doing this for a bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this beer, the pre-release beer, the Chain Link Vienna Lager. Before we dive right into that, let's talk about a rating system. So we rate all of our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. But we also want to remind you that everyone's in different tiers at different times. So rating is just it's just a fun way to talk about beer. So we just want to say that before we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You have to spit them out, you pour them on the ground, and they're disgusting. But if you're in bronze, that's totally fine. It's just
Yeah.
bronze beers. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. You're not trash. The beers
No,
are trash.
exactly.
Silver is macro brews that are just boring or like bad micro brews. Just
Yeah.
not taking it.
Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really think about drinking them again.
Platinum are solid. You would drink that again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You like these a lot, and you share them with your friends.
And Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are the Sky Serpent Seekers of the beer world.
Oh, oh, you're killing me. You're killing me. You could have said lightning strike, and we would have both been on top of that. But no, but
No,
no.
I made a choice.
I know you did. You always do. Um, all right, this Vienna lager. I think this is really tasty. I like this a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm interested to hear what you think first, because obviously this is
Of course, like you've
something I've
obviously
had
tasted.
a bunch of.
Yeah, it is so nice to taste a Vienna lager that tastes like what I expect a Vienna lager to be, because the one at my work does not taste like that. And I
Mm,
have to tell every guest that orders it. I have to remind them, all right, this doesn't taste like what you think it's going to taste like.
right.
It's good, but it tastes like a brown or an amber. It doesn't taste like a Vienna lager. But this one is exactly what I was expecting it to be, which I was so happy about. And I don't know, it's sweet and it's smooth and it's like I can see this being a really nice, obvious pre-release beer, but Vienna lagers do, I think, breach that gap between like, oh, lager, oh, just my dad's lager. I'm kind of bored with this one, and being into like, oh, there's actually something interesting going on, and I want to seek this out, basically. Um,
Yeah.
so with that, as far as ratings go, um, I would definitely pick this up again if I saw it anywhere, and I could easily see myself sharing this uh, with most people or people that I think like I could give this to like my father-in-law and he would drink it and like it, which is
Right.
big because he won't drink many. It's a good gateway, I think. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
here's this other thing you're probably gonna like. And it's closer to the things that I'm really interested in, but I think you'll really like it too. And so for that reason, it's probably a diamond. I think this is a great beer. It's what I was expecting. It I don't really have any notes besides like this is super tasty and it's what I want it to taste like.
Yeah. I'm on the exact same page. And that's why I think it's like the perfect pre-release beer
Hmm.
too. 'Cause it's like people are there for magic, not necessarily for craft beer. And you're like, hey,
Yeah,
I know you like lagers. Here's this thing that's slightly like one step past that.
yeah,
We use a nice, like a different malt than you're used to. We use a
hmm,
Vienna malt, um, which does have a bit of like, it does have a bit of like that amber or like coppery kind of
hmm.
feel to it. So I guess maybe whoever made the Vienna that you're talking about just really went hard on that
Overboard.
aspect of it.
Yeah, a little overboard.
Um, yeah, no, this to me it was perfect. It was like it's like a lager with flavor, so I really enjoy it, but it's
Hmm.
perfect gateway beer, just like you're talking about. So I had it in Diamond. I pick it up when I see it, and I just think it's just really good. It's crisp, it's
Yeah.
clean, it's like the perfect pre-release beer, man. It just is.
Ah, so good. Yeah, I wish that I could pick this up here because I don't have this in Toronto. But if I ever see it, it's going in my cart. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's even not that easy to find here. Like that place and the actual brewery itself are the only the only places I've seen it.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
wow. Well, hey, maybe I'll have to go down to Hamilton and pick some up.
You'll have
Who
to come to a
knows?
pre-release
Yeah. Hey, maybe next one. Maybe
and
that would
figure
be a
out
lot of
how
fun.
to avoid driving there so that
Yes.
you
How
can
do
have
I?
more than one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Because I will want more than one. Um, but anyway, that's it. It's closing time. That was our pregame episode for Aetherdrift. If you want to talk to us, you can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Blue Sky.
You may also find us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg or Regular Zach, depending on where this place is. I am in the process of trying to change my name to that, but it's not always available in certain places, like on
You
Instagram.
changed it on Arena, and that's a big win.
I was able to change it on Arena. That was a huge win. I didn't know it was going to
Yeah.
be as easy as it was, but hey, who knew? Who knew that if you just ask really politely, people will help you? And I pleaded to the arena devs, and they gave me.
I thought you were going to say Mark Rosewater.
Oh, Mark Rosewater. No, it was actually
Yeah.
Nathan Stoyer. I was like, dear Nathan Stoyer, please change my name on Magic Arena. Um, But anyway,
Dear Javier Dominguez, as the current world champion, I believe
I assume that you have these powers slash are responsible for doing these things.
yeah.
Anyway, but yes, I'm regular Zach on Twitch and any magic type things, and otherwise I'm Zulberg on those places. Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel if you want to chat about why you think all of our picks are wrong. We'd be happy to hear it. Come tell us what your picks are. Link for the Discord is in the show notes.
That's right, because if you say that our picks are wrong, I want to hear what yours are so I can say what yours are wrong. Like, why?
So I could say, oh, damn, those are good picks. Fuck.
Oh, damn. They did just take run over? Oh, maybe I should just take run over. And I try to, make it more exciting. But anyway, also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there as well. Go to our YouTube channel. Leave a comment. Do all the things and all the stuff. It helps out the channel a lot. And the more people that listen to the show, the more we can do it, which is great, right? Right? Anyway, this has been the Arena Regulars podcast.
Reminding you that we're sorry, but we might both love Simic in this form.
I think we might. I don't know. Anyway, good night. All right, that's fine.